Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Momentum. Again, my name is Laurie McNaughton. I am your Scale Up Biz Coach. And today I'm coming to you with a very, very powerful lesson for life, let alone in your business. Equally, this has the chance to change your life and completely change your business into something you really I want to say proud of, but really this business that creates a lifestyle for you versus a business that really just consumes your life. It's called above or below the line. So are you living above or below the line? So let's start out and have a little conversation about what that looks like. So there's your line. Below the line is blame. So you blame everything, anything for something that doesn't go right, you blame other people, whether that's your team, your customers, the economy, the government, the weather, whatever that is, you blame somebody else for that. Or you make excuses. The one excuse that I hear so often with people is, I didn't have enough time. Sorry, that just doesn't cut it. I'm a very busy guy. I've got so many things on the go, and yet I find time to make for everything that I do, everything that I want. So I think maybe another level of clarity of what it is that you want uh, would be a good starting point. What is the reason why you're building this business, or what is the reason why you're doing the life that you're living? Get really clear on that, and then just tell yourself, I'm not going to make any more excuses about anything. I'm just going to do. So the other is denial. There's nothing wrong. I didn't do it. Um, there was nothing, there's nothing going on, all this kind of stuff. It's just denying where you're at. And I'll give you an example of that. And I see this so often in business because we oftentimes get very comfortable when we're in an environment that's the same day in and day out. And so we can kind of lose touch with, you know, am I really on the right track here? Do I have really something good going on here? And I'll use an example of a guy that I met with who owned a company that galvanized steel for the oil patch. So it just keeps metal from rusting away quickly. So when I first sat down and started talking to him, he was telling me that business was really good. Oh, okay, good. We talked for a little while. After a bit, came up that he was literally working 12, 14, and sometimes 16 hours a day and 7 days a week often. And then sometimes he was even sleeping at work. And this guy had a family. So that's what I would call full on denial. Really be upfront with yourself about where you're at, because once you figure out, okay, well, you know what, this is where I'm at. This is not where I want to be. Create a clear picture of where you want to be. Then you start working towards it. You don't blame other people. You don't make excuses, and you just move forward. So what's the first thing is above the line? Well, it's responsibility. Uh, Taking 100% responsibility for everything that goes on in your business. So, if something doesn't go right, the buck stops with you. If you have unhappy customers because somebody on your team did, the buck stops with you. If your company is not making the profits that it needs to make, the buck stops with you. You got to understand fully that this success of this is your responsibility. You cannot go below the line and blame other people or make excuses, because if you do, you're destined for failure. You're not gonna succeed. And I'm gonna share a little bit more about that when I finish this filling in this blanks here. So the other is accountability. When I first start talking with business owners, I ask them, so what's the level of accountability on your team? And if they start, going down the road as there's not a lot of accountability, people don't follow through, all that kind of stuff, well, I know where I need to look to start to solve the problem. And that's with the business owner. Because here's the thing, guys and gals, is that if you're not accountable, then your team won't be accountable. If you are accountable, then your team will be accountable. And so what does that look like? And I use this sort of because sometimes there's just some people that are just not going to fit in, right? But here's the thing, you hired these people, you're responsible for hiring them. It's your responsibility to train them. It's your responsibility to ingrain them in your culture. Now, I like to use Jack Welch's 20-70-10 rule when I think about people on a team. 20% are going to be your superstars, your rock stars on your team. And then 70% are going to do a vast majority of the heavy lifting, so to speak. Like the 20% are going to help you grow your business. 70% are going to make sure things get done. But there's that 10% that always needs to be looking for work someplace else. And I say that because, first of all, I kind of believe that there's no lazy people out there, but people who are uninspired. And if they're not inspired by coming to work in your organization, they don't fit into your culture, they don't fit into, your vision of what you want to achieve. And even though you have a high level of accountability and responsibility, they don't mirror that, then you got to help them find employment someplace else. So the last one is taking ownership. And that means this is your ship. You got to take it. You got to own it. If it succeeds or fails, it's going to be on your back, not anybody else's. Now, I want to use something that I learned through Tony Robbins. When I first took his 30 Days to Personal Power, again, this is one of these things that was on cassette tape, which is funny when I think about it. Seems such a long time ago. But he said, and he didn't use this above and below the line, so to speak, but he talked about taking personal accountability and personal responsibility for things. And he says, if you, in this instance, I'm going to use his terms, go below the line, what you're saying is that I can't change it. I can't make a difference. I can't succeed because it's not my fault. I don't have time. I'm inundated. I can't do anything about it. So what you're saying is that I'm giving my personal power away to somebody else. When you take ownership of things, you hold yourself accountable and you hold yourself responsible, then you're exercising your personal power. You're saying, hey, there's a solution and I'll find it. I always like to say there's a solution to every problem. And if there's no solution, it's not a problem. And also, I repeat this oftentimes to clients and to say that, some people, they have a problem for every solution. And other people are all have a solution for every problem. So have a solution for every problem. There is a solution for every problem. You need to just work through it, think through it, and engage with your team. And if you're struggling with stuff like that, please reach out, send me a DM. We'll have a discovery call and we'll have a conversation about, what that really looks like to help you engage at a higher level from your own personal standpoint, but also how to get your team up there too. Because as I've talked about many times, your business is a series of systems and processes that are run by a team of people. If they don't do that, then you're not going to be able to scale your business up. It's impossible. And again, I want to say, you got to get above the line because that's where it all starts. So above the line is a growth mindset. The growth mindset lives above the line here. So you got to start with the question is, what can I do to change this? What can I do to change this? Not what can you do to change this? It's what can I do to change this? How did I contribute to this? This is a game changer when you actually reflect on, from a personal standpoint, what was your role in this happening? I have a common inquiry questions that I take clients through oftentimes because they're stuck someplace. And one of the questions I always ask is, how did you contribute to this? You got to take that personal ownership to that next level. That's where you find the solutions to the challenges. And then what's the next step forward? Meaning, what can I do today? What can I do today to start moving this forward? It doesn't mean you're going to drop everything and work on something for the rest of the day when you got all these other responsibilities that needs to be done. It's like as simple as maybe I need to make a list of everything that's not working the way I want it to work. So done. Just do that. Start there. And then, so that's when the last step, what can you do to move forward? So below the line is a comfort zone, but I like to say it's a dead end or a dead zone. It's not my fault. I don't have time. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Small business owners, stop saying that. Stop saying that's just the way it is. It's not the way it is. It is the way for you at that particular moment. And it doesn't have to mean it has to be that way all the time. Every big business was once a small business. Yes, some of them were born, and I'm not going to get into some of that, but I look at some of the companies that really big success stories around where I live, and I think of one, Gregg Distributors. Gary Gregg's dad started Gregg Distributors in his garage, making hydraulic hoses for the oil patch. Now it's his multi, I don't know how big it is, but there's, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in sales every year that started in a garage. Apple Computers started in a garage. Every small business started as, pardon me, every big business started as a small business. So it's not the way it is. It is the way it is for you at this moment. If you want to make changes, then you got to do different things. You've heard this before. If you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, you're crazy. So, you got to figure out a different way of doing things. So the truth is, you can't create lasting success from below the line. It's impossible. It will not function. It will not work. So if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, geez, I do tend to blame things outside of me, and I sometimes make excuses, or sometimes I just sort of fall into this place where I pretend everything is working the way it's supposed to work, and when it's not. You're, I don't, I don't know a polite way to say it other than say you're done, and it's not going to succeed. And, if you look at business failures in this part of the world, it's astronomical. I'm not going to say what it is. Google it. You'll find out. Those people that fail in business typically, I mean, it's not always because they went below the line, but more often than not, it went below the line. So below the line kills progress, teams, and dreams. If you're somebody who doesn't take responsibility, doesn't take ownership, and doesn't hold yourself accountable, you're going to have a team that doesn't take ownership, they don't hold themselves accountable, and they don't take responsibility for everything. So you got to start there. You have to start there. Above the line is where transformation happens. It literally is where you start to transform everything. It's like, okay, this is my business. I'm accountable for its success, and I'm the only one that's ultimately responsible for if it fails or succeeds. And so, what do I need to do differently than I'm doing today? So start there. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. So this week's challenge is, catch yourself in the moment. So if you catch yourself going below the line, just remind yourself, you know what? Say, hey, okay, that's below the line. That's blaming somebody. That's not going to help. That's excuses. It's not going to help. Or denial. It's not going to help. Then ask yourself, am I above or below the line? I think of a lot of the clients that I worked with over the years, but one in particular jumps up to me is like we'd be in a meeting and he'd say something and go, oh, that was below the line, wasn't it? Yeah. Today, that guy who at the time was working 7 days a week, was 40, 50 pounds overweight. Um, let's see what else was there. Like just there, he was on the job site all the time. He went to every job site. And he was like, here's the thing, he was in the drywall contracting industry. So that means home builder calls his company, we want this house drywalled or these houses drywalled. Then he hires the sub trades to go in and do that. So anybody that thinks that's an easy job to um, organize that is crazy. But he did, to the point where now he spends more time. Like, this guy's lost 40 or 50 pounds. He goes hiking in the mountains. I think he like going mountain climbing, not in the traditional sense of like he's not climbing Mount Everest or K2 or whatever those mountains are, but he's literally in the mountains all the time, hiking with people and just having himself a great time. So if you find yourself going below the line, pause, take a deep breath, and then start climbing back up to get above the line. What is it I need to do in order to keep moving forward? What is it I am personally responsible for? And how can I show up differently? And what are the different systems and processes am I going to need to place in my company in order for it to start to function smoothly? And how am I going to sharpen up my hiring process, or how am I going to sharpen up my training so my team uh, functions at the highest level? So catch yourself and just go through those questions. So the high ground is your goals are waiting for you. Stay above the line and be the leader your future self needs now. Be the leader your future self needs now. And I'd also add to that is be the leader your team needs you to be. Be the leader that your team needs you to be. Here's the thing. Um, People that, whether you think you're a leader or you just think you own a business and you're a boss or however you want to look to that, those people who come to work for you are trying to figure out how things work. And they're looking to you to figure out how things work. And if you don't know how things work, then they're going to become disenchanted and probably go to work someplace else. And if they don't go to work someplace else, you're probably in more trouble than if they did. Because one of my mentors said that when it comes to hiring people and training people, it's like business owners would say, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money. What if I spend all this money on training these people and then they just leave? And he said, what if you don't spend that money and they stay? I think that's one of those ones that lands in your lap like an anvil. So be the leader your future self needs you to be. Be the leader your team needs you to be. So, closing quote here is above the line is where leaders live, below the line is where potential dies. Choose wisely. Thanks for listening. And if you're interested, I'm going to put in the comments or the description section. You can sign up. You'll get the email reminders for Monday Momentum, and you can join in. Basically, what we do is we have a discussion about something. We have some think time about it, and then we have, or pardon me, I share an idea, a concept, a strategy. Then we have some time where we talk, or pardon me, this quiet time where you sit and think about what you do and take some notes. And then we have some open discussion so we can really coach each other at the same time. So thanks for listening. I appreciate your time. Have yourself an awesome week and look forward to maybe one day seeing you on Monday Momentum.